So thank you for joining us today. My name is Kim Mozingo. I'm the Director of Federal Programs for TEDCO. And we're going to talk about one of the programs that TEDCO offers to support technology entrepreneurship in the state. And this is the SBIR STTR Proposal Lab. So SBIR and STTR are two programs that are often referred to as America's Seed Fund. It is a great source of initial funding, non-dilutive funding for technology companies. SBIR stands for Small Business Innovative Research, and STTR is Small Business Technology Transfer. And this funding it's federal funding from 11 different agencies participate, and it is specifically to meet federal research and development needs. There's a lot of crossover in federal research and development needs and what businesses need. And this funding helps to increase commercialization. It helps to increase innovation generally across the United States. And this program in particular helps to foster and encourage participation by some of the underserved populations, women-owned businesses and small disadvantaged or socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. So you might not be familiar with the SBIR and STTR program, but you are familiar with some of the companies that have started out of this type of non-dilutive funding. And 23andMe is one of the great examples of this. They started with funding from the NIH, and it was an SBIR, and they're still, collecting data and doing research and helping people understand themselves a little bit better today. So there are, as I mentioned, different agencies participate. There are 11 agencies that participate in the SBIR and STTR programs. And from this point on, I'm going to refer to it as SBIR only. I'm generally talking about both. You may have heard the term SBIR. Sometimes people pronounce it as if it's a word, and that's fine. Both are correct. So there are 11 agencies that participate, and there are 5 of those 11 agencies participate in both the SBIR and the STTR programs. So the reason that the National Science Foundation is outlined here is because this is what TEDCO's Proposal Lab focuses on. We use the NSF solicitation to teach people how to write a proposal that is compelling and responsive and competitive. So there are plenty of differences between how these agencies manage their programs, but this is a timeline, approximate timeline of release. You can see it ends in 2022, so a new timeline will be being developed. And you can see one of the primary differences is the agency's release dates. Both Health and Human Services and NSF have multiple dates. So NSF is open essentially all year long. You can submit a proposal at any time during the year. Other organizations like the Department of Defense have very specific timelines, and they have specific pre-release dates and topic release dates and things like that. And that helps you understand when you can talk to an organization. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. So another primary difference between the agencies, first of all, their budgets are very, very different in size. You can see very clearly the DoD has the most funding for their programs. There's also a big difference in whether or not an agency is offering contracts or grants. We're not going to get into that today, but suffice to say there are differences in expectations and how those programs run. It is a 3-phase program. And a funnel is a pretty good representation of how this works. There are a lot of companies that apply for Phase I. Fewer get through to Phase II, and fewer still get through to commercialization. So one of the reasons the SBA funds programs like this Proposal Lab is to help companies, some of the companies that are less traditionally used to working with federal agencies, help them improve their chances within the SBIR and STTR program. You can see that the win rate for Phase I awards is 15%. It's actually 15.4% today in the state of Maryland. With the Proposal Lab, our win rate for companies that go through the Proposal Lab is actually 39%. So it's a funnel process. from getting from one to the other. And then there are a lot of differences, again, between whether something is a contract or a grant, but some other differences are that when the Department of Defense, as an example, puts out a solicitation saying, or they actually use a broad area announcement, so everyone calls them, each agency announces differently. They call their announcements by different names. Department of Defense uses a broad area announcement. They will tell you this is what we're looking for. We want innovative solutions to this problem or in this specific, very specific narrow domain. Whereas with the National Science Foundation, that's looking for cutting edge research, really bleeding edge research that's going to push the needle on technology, their solicitations are based on very broad topic areas, and they're driven by the principal investigator. And we'll talk a little bit about what a principal investigator is in a little while. DoD, of course, is a potential buyer of the solution. NSF is not going to buy your technology in general. The DoD has 3 very specific solicitation periods during the year. And that means that they have a pre-solicitation date that I mentioned here. You can see that in December, we're going to be coming up to a pre-release time, where that means that you will be able to talk to a DOE program manager about the topic that they've posted or sharing in their BAA. And once that pre-release period closes, no more conversation with them. With NSF, the National Science Foundation, they are kind of open all year for solicitations or for proposals. And that means you can speak with their topic managers all throughout the year. They have closing dates once a quarter. But it's incredibly important. All of the agencies are different. Here, I use the example of DoD, a National Science Foundation. The most important thing you can do for yourself is to visit the solicitation and the website for the organization that you're looking at. So this proposal lab, I've mentioned that part of the SBA's goal, where part of the goal of the SBIR and STTR program is to get women-owned and socially and economically disadvantaged businesses more involved in the program. So one of the ways they do that is with the Federal and State Technology Partnership Program. One organization from each state can apply for funding from the SBA, and TEDCO was fortunate to get funding a couple of years ago, and we still have that funding. So we run a proposal lab. So TEDCO's SBIR and STTR Proposal Lab helps companies write winning proposals. I mentioned before that our win rate more than doubled the national win rate, which was 15%. Ours right now is 39%. It's actually a little bit higher because we had a couple other companies win. So we help you using experts that are experts in proposals. We bring in experts in your industry, and we come together to help you write the best proposal. We meet 6 times in a 5-month period. We bring experts in 2 times to review your proposal, so you get 2 different reviews before submission. Partners in this are OST Global Solutions. They have helped businesses win more than $23 billion in funded contracts. So they definitely know what they're doing. And they have been instrumental in helping us more than double the national win rate for companies that go through this. Best to apply early for best considerations. We are interviewing now and have offered spots to companies. So how do you know if this is right for you? It sounds great. The Proposal Lab is an amazing opportunity. We've got plenty of good quotes from companies that have gone through in the past and through the Proposal Lab. They will be more than happy to talk to you about the experience if you'd like to talk to them. But you need to make a business decision about whether this is right for you. First of all, you have to be qualified. So to be qualified, you do need to be US owned or operated. You have to be under 500 employees, and you have to be focusing on research and development. Some of the things that will help you make a business decision about whether this is the right thing for you at this time is to consider how much time it takes to write your very first SBIR or STTR proposal. So the average is about 150 hours. It might be less if you're already a little bit familiar with the program, or you are working with the federal government in some way. There might be plenty of ways that you can reduce the number of hours, but it's a significant impact on your time. You also want to make sure that you have the right team together. If you don't have the right team together when we get started, we can certainly help you with that. We can help you find a principal investigator if you don't have one. For the National Science Foundation in particular, they are looking for bleeding edge solutions. They're looking for people that are going to push the needle on the science in their specific domain. So how do you know if NSF is right? You might be interested in the National Science Foundation and just want to run with that and develop a proposal for them. But you might want to try to figure out, maybe you should be working with NIH. Maybe you should be looking at the Department of Energy. You want to make sure that you're looking at the right agency to apply for an SBIR. And as I said before, there are agencies that have a very specific needs that they will tell you very clearly what they're looking for, and other agencies that will say, in this broad area of, for example, advanced analytics, if you fit into one of these categories and you have something that's innovative, write a proposal and we'll take a look at it with caveats. There are caveats to that. At any rate, you can use some tools that are readily available now. You can go into the SBIR.gov website and search past awards. You will learn a wealth of information. For example, I was working with a company that is looking at vector-borne diseases, and we did a search of past awards, and we came up with 20 awards since 2004. So what that does for them, you can download that into Excel. You might come up with 80 or 100 awards, and you want to take a look at that. It's much easier to do in Excel than it is to do just on your screen. In this case, with only 20 awards, it was pretty easy to take a look at where those awards came from, and you can see the results. So this doesn't tell that company that the Defense Health Agency, for example, is not a good idea. It's just that they didn't do as much research in that area at that time. So there's no time associated with these awards, but these are all 3 different organizations that you might look at if you're working in vector-borne diseases. Doesn't mean that somebody else might not be interested in that. It might be a great topic for NSF, depending on how that's worded and how you approach NSF. The other thing that's incredibly important and can help you figure out if you're looking at the right agency is talking to the topic manager. So we talked about pre-release dates. I mentioned with the Department of Defense, that's a very specific time that they give you, and you can talk to the topic manager. You will get all of their contact information, so you can just send them an email and schedule a quick phone call with them. Always ask for a phone call. Try not to ask your questions in an email. Because you want to have the conversation. You want to be able to ask follow-on questions. But when you do this, realize that organizations like the Department of Energy, they have a pre-release date, but you can continue to talk to them up until the day that you turn in your proposal. NSF, we already talked about that. They are pretty much open all year. They have closing dates once per quarter. You can speak to their topic managers at any time. So for consideration for NSF, if you're looking at NSF in particular, as I mentioned, they really are trying to advance the science. They want that bleeding edge technology. They want brand new solutions. They will ask you about the intellectual merit. They will want to know what the broader impacts of your solution are, and they definitely want to know about the commercialization potential. So these are just a couple of things that are part of the review process for an NSF SBIR. They tell you exactly what they're looking for, and this is what they're looking for. So if that's not a fit for you at this time, then maybe this isn't. You make a business decision about whether or not that works for you. On the right-hand side of the screen are some of the past topics that NSF has had out. So you can see there's a wide variety from biomedical to nanotechnology to photonics. digital health. There's just technology companies shouldn't have too hard of a time finding a spot for themselves that is right up their alley. So that is all for today. We are going to be offering a series of Q&A opportunities where me and my team are going to be available on a regular basis to answer questions. We'll do that live. And we're going to do that starting next week or the week after and all the way through the proposal closing date, or the closing date, which is the 15th of December. So thanks so much, and I look forward to hearing from you, and feel free to send me an email and ask me questions. Thanks.